it has to be fully transparent and full accountability and responsibility, because their word means nothing after you've traveled down the road of addiction and you've had a family member. So you learn you can't believe everything they say just because they say they're going to show up at this time. Yes. Don't hold your breath. So there's a lot of work that they have to do, building new bridges, mending relationships.
Well, sometimes
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. We have, once again, a very special guest that we had on last week for part 1. This is part 2 interview with Julie Dankovich. She is the Executive Director of Design Future, and she's going to be sharing what it is her nonprofit does, and also how she can help you overcome struggles, maybe some mindsets, maybe you would like a different future. I'm just going to stop it there. But I want to welcome back to the show, Julie. Thank you so much for being here. All right, last week we talked about why you started the nonprofit, what spirited you, what happened. And you can see that interview part 1 on YouTube channel, Grand Tap Media. I want to talk about if I was a concerned family member, or maybe I know somebody that's struggling. How does your whole process work, and who's qualified for this nonprofit? Who's your client, as they always say in business?
So our client is really anybody that's struggling with drug and alcohol abuse. Our primary target is veterans. My father was a veteran. I've always had a soft place in my heart for veterans, especially knowing the PTSD that they come home with. So the program that I teach does help with PTSD.
But quickly, I want to interrupt. They're able to come into a home that you've created. So that's why it's called Designed Kind of Future. You've designed
They create
success.
a whole new future for themselves, and whatever that looks like. So people find us in lots of different ways. We've got good referral sources in Grand Rapids and the surrounding area. Sometimes people have already gone to drug and alcohol treatment, they're getting discharged. This would be the next logical step. It's sober living. I prefer to call it communal living, because there's still so much stigma attached to addiction. We have 2 houses now, so wherever we have an opening in, we place them at one of the 2 locations. And within 24 hours after they move in, I give them it's a worksheet where they're able to start thinking about and creating a set of life goals. So there's 4 areas of life. The first area is material things. How much money do you want to make? What kind of career do you want to have? What kind of car do you want to drive?
Do they have the answers for that?
It's interesting. Some, yes. Some have very specific and lengthy goal lists. And then there are others that it takes them days to even list a couple of things on their goal sheet. They've gotten to the point in life where they are so stopped and so hopeless that they can't even think of what they want. They're just happy to be in a safe, warm place. But eventually they get there. Usually after they do the first class with me, their spirit starts lifting, they start feeling better, more solid on their feet, and they can start to think about the future. So they start creating a goal list. Within a week after that, we start the classes. It's important to get them started on that as soon as possible.
Now, what do these classes consist of? Is it like college? Like,
no.
Not like, I mean, homework like that, but I mean, you're sitting and you're giving them things to do when they leave. Kind of like, you have to take this with you. You need to do this on your own, so you can come back and
we
share.
verify that they've done it. So I also meet with our residents one-on-one every 2 weeks. And we go over their goal list. I take their notebooks where they're supposed to be doing the assignments from the classes to verify that they've done them. If they haven't done them, they get written up. If you get written up 3 times, we sit down and talk about whether or not.
Have you had people do that?
Yeah.
Where you've had to take they had to leave the program because they didn't follow through?
No.
Or just got
We won't
warnings?
kick anybody out over that, but after 3 write-ups, there's a consequence, and the consequence might be this is your curfew now, maybe you lose your laundry privileges for a week. All the residents voted and decided, I love this consequence, you break a rule, you get written up, you have to pay $10, and when we have enough to have a pizza party, we have a pizza party with your fines that you paid.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, well,
Where
you-
it kind of shares in and keeps people kind of watching other people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and with addiction, that's important. It has to be fully transparent and full accountability and responsibility, because their word means nothing after you've traveled down the road of addiction and you've had a family member. So you learn you can't believe everything they say just because they say they're going to show up at this time.
Yes.
Don't hold your breath. So there's a lot of work that they have to do, building new bridges, mending relationships.
Well, sometimes you think they go through a difficult, like I mentioned, you know, drunk driving violations, which is very costly to the family, license taken away. I mean, this is what happens usually with alcohol.
Yeah.
If you continue down that road, right?
Yeah.
Accidents, leaving the scene of an accident because, you know, there's all these things you can't believe a person of, you know, this person I was sharing with you had 2 degrees, you know, that was very smart, but just got down the, I guess the alcoholism took over his whole life and he ended up dying from it. But anyways, I didn't really, whenever family members would get together, you know, well, he's going to change and he's been sober for, you know, so long. I really didn't take much stock in that because I go, yeah, well, we'll see what he is in a year. When
Yeah.
you go through stresses.
I'll
mean,
believe
it's as
it when
simple
I
as the
see it.
holidays, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're around alcohol, you're around festivities where everybody's having fun.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So there's plenty of research that can show where addiction comes from, why we struggle with it. So it's either genetic predisposition,
Right.
it's something that's been in your family and it's carried through the genes, or it's some sort of, it doesn't necessarily have to be childhood trauma, it's some sort of trauma. I've met plenty of people that didn't develop an issue with alcohol until they were in their 50s, maybe even 60s. There were people that started developing a problem with alcohol during the pandemic and the stay-home order. You know,
heard a
alcohol
lot of that,
sales
too.
rose significantly. You know, people are doing all kinds of things to try and tame the emotions we were feeling during that very stressful period.
Isolated.
And they're isolating. What else
Right.
are you going to do? But
Even
yeah.
when you're home with your own loved ones back then, it was nice to be with somebody, but I was in this like support group, or I was learning about the support group, and it was all virtual. A lot of women that were in this thing just lost everything. They're in their condo alone.
Yeah.
And I think when you always had things to do, when you traveled, you had all that in your life, all of it's taken away, and you're looking, and here you are, maybe just in a condo with a dog
Yeah.
for what? Months?
And we are not a species that's intended to isolate.
No.
We are intended to connect with people.
No.
So when that's taken away,
Yeah.
it takes a toll on your humanity.
Right.
It just does. But I do think also that pandemic and the stay-home order produced some very good things. We were talking earlier, people started new businesses, had to adopt their
Yes.
own models of business and all of that. But I really think it gave people a chance to really take a look at how they were doing life and how they want to start doing things differently. And I firmly believe every single one of us is born with a life's purpose that we are intended to achieve in this lifetime. I think there's a spiritual blueprint that exists for us even before we come here and we're born. And part of our trials, our tribulations, our biggest challenges in life, I think exist to get us closer to our life's purpose. So I tell the people that we house that struggle with addiction, this is all part of your plan, so embrace it. We encounter challenges. Number one, either we're ready to evolve and take it to the next level, or number two, there's a part of ourselves that we're now ready to heal. So you have to do some self-investigation and be self-aware enough to know, what is it that I need to heal?
When you say life purpose, let's talk about that, because now it was such the buzz back in 90s and early 2000. Now people just kind of shun it. Oh, okay, my life purpose. What is that possibly? You know what I'm saying? And maybe your life purpose isn't a success route to an income. It could be just help, like you said, you started this endeavor on the weekends, helping other people, and it led to something else. But a lot of people want that success right away, and they don't even realize it's almost creating a process. And what you're learning, can you share with that? Because sometimes you might find your purpose and helping. Everybody wants to help everybody.
Yeah.
Right. I've done an event. I will share you. I did it at success workshops, like about 8 years maybe now. But anyways, and we all had to write down your perfect day. What would be your perfect day? You probably understand this. The three things that everyone had in there was that they had a loving family. They were they didn't have to worry about money. They had a lifestyle and they gave back to the community. They were part of the church community. So they all had the same scenario in different ways, but they were all came out to be the same thing. Now you're dealing with people trying to find their purpose, which have been kind of selfish. They've been drinking. And they may be immature. They haven't even grown up in the last 10 years, and all their friends have left, and their families have all moved on to their life.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do they say? I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know. Maybe they felt their purpose was ballet, and now they're 40.
Yeah.
You're not going into the ballet to make money.
Yeah.
For that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people are lucky enough to stumble on their life's purpose when they're very young. I don't know many people like that.
I have not met many people
But most
like that.
of us find it later on in life. There's a really great book that I read when I launched the nonprofit. It was not easy. It's not easy starting a business, but it is 10 times more difficult to start a nonprofit. 10 times more difficult. And I didn't realize that going in. Oh my gosh,
nonprofits,
it
yes.
is. It's the most challenging thing that I ever did, but it's only in hindsight. This is where maturity and lengths of time come in handy, where you have the opportunity to look back and see all of these things had to take place for me to be exactly where I am right now. So I feel like we do have a primary life's purpose. It is attached to our struggles. I believe that people that struggle with addiction, when they finally get through on the other side, and it's a brain disease, so there's work to do. The first 6 months you're in recovery are the most challenging, period, hands down. Your body is still sometimes even detoxing.
Right.
But even after that, the 6-month to 18-month period, now you're still dealing with serotonin levels that have been depleted. Your dopamine levels are all out of whack. There's a lot of brain chemistry that is still so messed up. So that's where the work that I do with the classes comes in and makes a difference. And again, what cognitive behavioral therapy is, you're actually, doing the things that you're learning about in therapy. You have to have that new experience in order for it to stick into who you are, into your physiology and into your brain and your mind.
Why did you choose a nonprofit as opposed to a profit?
So that's a great question. So this program that I had developed, I was very driven by money. It's how I measured how successful I was.
I think a lot of people do as they get older too.
It's the human condition.
Right.
So I initially, the book that I wrote, which is the instruction manual, is called A Course in Prosperity. And so that was the book that I was giving to the first group of 25 people that needed to have a breakthrough in an area of life. It may not have been money, but the principles apply to any area of life. It doesn't matter what it is. So after that first person-to-person class, where they came to my house and they were all struggling with different issues, I told the person that was helping me, let's do one that's focused just on money, because that seems to be the common theme with everyone. And in my point of view, that's that's something you can do about actually pretty quickly to have a breakthrough in money, if you start doing things in an altogether new way and you do them consistently. So after doing that workshop, we did a couple of them, and I realized this is turning people into money monsters, and that's not the intent of the program. After everything that I've been through, especially that dying experience with my dad, that having walked him through death's door and living to talk about it, I realized my priorities are not straight. Money really is not so important. And traveling, that's nice. Everybody needs a vacation, but that's been my priority. No wonder I feel so empty and hollow. I would tell people I'm happy, but truly I was not fulfilled. So I started working with a spiritual director from the Dominican Center at Marywood. I still work with her. She's been partnering with me for over 9 years now. We started talking through this. I have a program that people told me I'll make a fortune if I unleash this to the public. And I said, I don't know what happened to me when my dad died, but I don't care about that anymore. The biggest regret that my dad had on his deathbed was he felt he did not make that much of a difference for that many people. And if you knew my dad, you'd think that's absurd, but that's what he was left with. The only regret he was left with was that. And that left a mark on me. I thought, here I am living this self-serving lifestyle when I have something that can really help people. So that's where my spiritual director came in and said, what would it look like if you took it to the margins of society? And initially I freaked out over that. I thought, I don't know about people that are homeless. I don't even know what that's like. I can't even imagine how.
Right.
I was even a little bit afraid, but she told me just sit with the idea. So I started testing it out. I started taking people from Mel Trotter and Degage and started leading the program to them. And I just did 2. They were going to be my test group. And after the first one, I thought, this is where my heart is. Who would have ever thought? My family thought I was crazy. My boys drove here from, actually my oldest son and his wife were the first ones to come. They drove from Chicago. I thought they came to help me with renovations on the building. They came to talk to me about whether or not I needed to see a therapist. They thought I was having a midlife crisis.
I could have just imagined your children doing that. Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard people say that.
And that was devastating to me. I bawled and thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe you think I'm nuts at this point because I want to help people. They were just scared, you know. Their mom had been living a very nice lifestyle and now she sold her house, put everything into storage. She's using that money to buy this.
Well, can you see what they would think that?
I totally understand it.
And then who's going to take care of you if this doesn't work out?
But at that time I was a walking raw nerve end. So I was sensitive to what everybody was thinking of me because honestly I thought, I think I might have made a wrong turn here. This is a lot more challenging than what I ever realized. But that whole process, you know, I bought the building with the proceeds of the sale of my house and then used whatever was left over to help renovate it. And I paid a contractor to come in, wrote him a check for a large sum of money to start the renovations. He showed up for 6 weeks and never came back. And I ended up taking him to court. I won, but never was able to collect because he filed bankruptcy. So I had to rely on community service workers through the court services program to come help finish the project.
Oh my gosh.
So a project that was supposed to take 4 months took over 2.5 years, and I had no income. I had made a commitment when I started the nonprofit, because the thing that was holding me back was, I'm losing this amazing income, and I'm going to work in the nonprofit. How am I going to support myself? Well, the first thing was sell the big house, and you don't have a mortgage payment, so that was helpful. But I'm putting all of my money into buying the building and renovating it. How am I going to live? So I did get a sense of what it's like not to have a home anymore, maybe not even have a place to sleep that night because I was so busy with renovations, I forgot to call a friend to see if I could stay there, and knowing I have nowhere to stay. I guess I'm sleeping on this dirty floor. There's no heat in the building. It was horrible. And then I'm running out of money for the projects and we still need more materials. But through that whole experience, I learned the art of what true surrendering is. And it was ugly, Pamela. I mean, I was laying on the floor. There was one night that I thought, I can't take it anymore. I have no idea how I'm going to pay for the wiring, let alone find a licensed electrician to come and install the wiring that I can't afford to buy. So I sat there with my coat and my hat on because the building was freezing, no heat. And I am laying on one of the floors in the upper level, sobbing, just sobbing, grieving for the lifestyle that I gave up freely, wishing I had it back, feeling so lost, alone, and surrounded by darkness. And I thought I did this all to myself. So I stayed on the floor. I mean, it was hours. It started when the sun was setting. I didn't drive to my mother's house until about 11 o'clock that night, only until I was so exhausted and there were no more tears to come out. I suddenly picked myself up off the floor and I felt light as air and thought, there's nothing else for me to do right now, so there's nothing to do except just go to my mother's house and get a good night's sleep.
So let's recap here. This is a home or building you turned into Design Future?
It used to be Ackerman Electric, so it's on the northwest side. Ackerman Electric built it and sold it to somebody else in, I think, 1964. So the upstairs is very much a warehouse. It's very industrial.
Okay.
And we left it that way. It's super cool. The lower level looks more just like a beautiful home, so it's 2 levels.
Okay.
So the upstairs level has these steel beams that go across. They used to roll these big reams of wire across and then out these doors into the alley and load them up on trucks. But that's the first location. The second location is a home. It's a spacious home. It's got 3,500 square feet, and it's just beautiful. And we dedicated it to one of our house managers he died during the pandemic, so we've dedicated that house to him. It's the Patrick Coffin House.
I saw that on the website.
We made sure that the house reflected Patrick and the colors that he loved, and he was such a chill person, just very even.
Okay.
And so it's a very peaceful environment, just good
All right,
colors.
so that's your ideal. Where do you find your clients? Is it they call? Maybe a family refers them to. What is it? And it's just alcohol? Do you stay away from drug addicts?
No, it's both.
You know,
Drugs, and right now we're housing more alcoholics than drug addicts. That's the first time in 4 years since I've started housing people that we've got more alcoholics. I don't know what that means, but
I think we had a lot of time on our hands. we couldn't
Right?
leave our home.
And
or
it's easier to
prescription
get.
Drugs. A lot of people were able to, was it prescription drugs? But basically, they weren't leaving their home to go
right.
to the local
Yeah,
drug
anybody
dealer.
can, if you're over the age of 21, you can get alcohol.
Alcohol delivered to your home.
Yeah. So they find their way to us, either it's through word of mouth, through other people that have lived with us and transitioned out, and they're talking about us at recovery meetings. A treatment center will refer them, hospitals refer them, Cherry Health will refer them, sometimes therapists do.
Okay.
A lot of parents call. So we get them from lots of different places, which then creates a very diverse population within the house. And at first I wasn't sure, if you take a person that has experienced even a great deal of success, we had somebody that had really gone up the ladder at a very large company, and was making a great deal of money, but alcohol was his demon. And so he'd gotten a DUI in a company vehicle. They took away his job. He's now a forklift driver at the same company, but he's the best forklift driver that ever lived. So I just love that guy. But anyway, so we've got him, and then he might be sleeping in the same room as somebody that's been homeless for 3 years. But what I found is that the homeless people that have really experienced the real margins
Correct.
of society, they have a positive impact on the people that have had some success, and vice versa. So these people that have experienced success end up mentoring the people that have been homeless. That's why it is communal living. It's people are coming from all different walks of life with one big thing in common. They want their lives to be better. It doesn't matter what their addiction is. They just want their lives to be better, and they come together as a team. And I tell them, these people are your mirrors. So if you have a problem with them, they're your training partner. Sort it out.
How long have you been in existence?
I resigned from my job in January of 2015. I had started creating Design Future the October before. So
And where are you getting your funding?
So we do sliding scale rent. So
Okay.
people, if they have no jobs, they don't pay anything to live there, but we can only handle no rent paying a certain number of those every year. Everybody else is sliding scale based on your income. So if people are making over $30,000 a year, we charge them $596 for rent. Now included in that rent are the weekly classes they get with me. It's a 3-month-long program. We partner them with a spiritual director. We have a group membership to the Y. They get group dinners. We provide all the household supplies. Amazon has been such a wonderful donation partner. Once a month we go and pick up a pallet of donated goods that can be electronic. So people got new iPhones. They got, what are the watches? iWatches?
Yeah, the iPhone watches, and everybody's into those.
Yeah, I mean, they have taken such good care of our people. The VA donated new clothes for everybody at the end of the year, so that was their Christmas presents. Anyway, we drug and alcohol test everybody at our facilities every 3 to 4 days, and our tests go back 3 days, so nobody gets away with anything. We will know if you have tried to sneak something.
Okay.
And just that accountability alone is enough to keep most people sober.
Now you have a house person?
We have a house manager that lives on site at each location.
So you have to pay for that person
Yes.
to be there.
So they get free room and board. They get everything free that we offer, and then they get perks depending on how well of a job that they're doing and how much they have to intervene if I'm not on site or my partner Macy if she's not on site. So
Okay.
it all just depends, but
Well, and you said the success rate is
72%, which is unheard of.
72%.
It's
That is
unheard of.
very good.
And the thing that we've housed lots of people that are parents of small children, but the mothers that we have housed, there was a nurse that lived with us who had an addiction to meth. And meth, in my opinion, meth and heroin are the worst, and crack as well, worst substances any human
hear
can.
that too.
It changes you on every level. I say those are the devil's drugs. You go into total and complete darkness when you are abusing those drugs. Anyway, she had lost her nursing license because of her addiction. Her children were put in foster care.
Wow.
Her life was a mess. She first moved in and she was sneaking out at night to go be with her meth head boyfriend. And we have security cameras in our common room, and we get alerts in the middle of the night. So when people are up and moving around, I get a signal on my phone and I check to see why are they up. Are they just going to the bathroom or are they sneaking out?
Wow, that is pretty good
Yeah.
to know. I mean, as I get older, of course, just getting up in the middle of the night is something common.
Right, as you
Correct.
get older, but not for drug addicts and alcoholics.
Yeah, it's a
Some
red
of-
flag.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes it is. But to see what she has done to not only stop using meth, because I mean, anybody can stop using a substance for a period of time, but I always tell people if you're not fulfilled in your life, what's the point in staying clean and sober? What's the point?
Correct.
So you have to create a life that you actually love. She's been able to do that very successfully. She was able. Child Protective Services told me there's no hope for this woman. She will never get her kids back. And I thought, game on, game on.
Oh,
So
yes.
I devoted more time with her than I would just the average resident, mostly because she had 4 children. So there's not just her life at stake, there's 5 lives.
What was her age? Close to? Come close.
She's 34.
Okay, that's young.
Yeah, and her
There's her
oldest
whole life
son
ahead of her.
is 12, the youngest one is 4. So the youngest one was actually being adopted out. He was in the process of that when we got the mother living with us. So now she's living in her own house. She's got her 4 kids back. Getting back into nursing was going to be expensive and no joke. Like there's all kinds of things that she had to do,
Right.
which I was kind of glad to hear about. So she's still working towards that, but she's gotten herself a really good job so she can work from home and keep an eye on the kids. But that kind of success story, that's what keeps me doing what I'm doing. I tell people I make $1.35 an hour and I can't wait to get there in the morning, and I will be there sometimes till 9 or 10 at night. I love the people that we house. That is actually the most incredible thing. They bond together very quickly and you develop a relationship that is truly authentic. We're not putting on masks, trying to impress people. Everybody's real. They're talking about their struggles, but they're not staying focused on those stories.
Yeah.
They will share the story if they know it's going to make a difference for somebody else struggling, or to gauge just how far they've been able to come. But when you see the statistics of how many children are impacted by parents that
yes.
have addiction issues, they're off the charts. So really, I will take a mother that's got children and I will work double time to get her moving in the right direction. And she's not the only mother that has been able to get out there and just recreate herself. That's why it is a comeback story.
They can learn more by contacting Julie.
Yep.
We want to thank Julie Dankovich
Thanks,
for being here
Pamela.
today, Executive Director of Design Future. You can check out, she gave her information. We'll have some more after this video. So this is Pamela Keim from Grand Tap Media Business TV, and we will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
The opinions expressed in the preceding program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.